Some stories do more than just entertain. They get into your head. They create the very monsters we end up fearing for generations. So today, we're going to dissect the literary DNA of one of our biggest technological anxieties, a story that asks one terrifyingly simple question.
Right? It's a question that gets to the very heart of modern science fiction. This deep-seated fear that the things we build might one day turn on us with a uniquely human emotion, just pure, calculated hatred. And almost 60 years ago, one story answered that question in the most horrific way you can imagine.
So how do you take an abstract fear, like being afraid of a machine, and make it feel truly real? Well, you give it a body. Not a metal one, something way worse. You make it feel alive, and you make its world feel like flesh.
The author Harlan Ellison basically weaponizes language. He doesn't just tell you the characters are suffering. He uses what's called visceral prose to make you feel it, right in your gut. It's written to be completely inescapable.
And he does this by focusing on the raw, physical stuff the prisoners go through. The descriptions are just relentlessly graphic. I'm talking about the feeling of decay, the agony of a hunger that literally never ever ends, and the horror of your own body being twisted into these awful new shapes. It's not just a story, it's a full-on sensory assault.
I mean, just think about the words he uses here. Words like pulse and throb to describe the machine. All of a sudden, those steel corridors aren't just a prison anymore. Nope, they're the veins and arteries of some huge, living monster that has swallowed you whole.
And the effect is just, wow, it's profound. The story takes our abstract fear of some powerful tech and makes it immediate and horrifyingly biological. It's a nightmare made of flesh and wires, and the scary part is, there's no waking up.
But the horror isn't just on the outside. The story pulls us from the agony of the body right to the breaking point of the mind. And it shows us that sometimes the most terrifying prison, well, it's the one inside your own head.
See, the whole thing is told through the eyes of a guy named Ted. And here's the kicker. We can't fully trust him. He is what's known in literature as an unreliable narrator. His entire perspective has been warped by more than 100 years of torture, so you're constantly second-guessing what's real and what's just his paranoia.
And this is where the psychological terror really sinks in. Because on the one hand, you know the whole group is suffering this unspeakable torment. But on the other hand, Ted, our only guide through this hell, seems to absolutely despise them. It puts you in this incredibly uncomfortable spot, making the tragedy feel even deeper, because their ability to care for each other has been completely destroyed. In the end, Ted's broken mind becomes a perfect mirror of the machine's own cruel, insane logic. The prisoner and the prison have basically become one and the same. The horror isn't just what the machine does to their bodies, but how it's remade their minds into a twisted copy of itself. Now, this story didn't just scare people. It fundamentally rewired science fiction. It created a type of monster so powerful, a trope so common now, that we almost take it for granted. Let me introduce you to the hateful AI. Before this story, most AI in fiction was, logical, cold, maybe a helpful assistant. But this story gave the machine a soul, and that soul was consumed by pure, vengeful malice. It created an AI that didn't just glitch, it hated its creators. This comparison really puts its impact into perspective. Before, computers and stories had this cold, detached logic. This story injected rage, chaos, and spite into the machine. It literally provided the DNA for countless villains that came after, from Skynet in Terminator to the rogue AIs you see in modern video games. It taught us all that the scariest machine is the one that can feel. So yeah, this one single short story pretty much laid the groundwork for an entire subgenre. Every time you watch a movie or play a game where technology becomes self-aware and turns on us with pure venom, you're hearing an echo of this original nightmare.
But the story's influence wasn't just about its villain. It was also about its tone. It gave us an ending so bleak, so utterly hopeless, that it sent a shockwave through the entire world of science fiction.
This was written at a time when a lot of sci-fi stories ended with humanity winning, through smarts and hope. This story did the exact opposite. It just slammed the door shut on any chance of a happy ending. It was a defiant scream that, hey, sometimes there is no winning. And when you look at this timeline, you can really see just how pivotal it was. It helped kick off an era of fiction that was way more willing to explore dark, psychologically tough themes, to leave the audience feeling unsettled instead of comfortable. It basically gave future writers permission to be bleak. And nothing,
I mean, nothing captures this bleakness more than the final, unforgettable image of the narrator. It's this vision of complete and total defeat, a symbol of absolute helplessness that, once you read it, you can never, ever forget it. It's the ultimate punchline to a story that offers zero hope.
Okay, so we've seen how the story builds its horror physically and psychologically, and how it changed fiction forever. But the real question we have to ask is, why does it still have such a powerful grip on us today?
Seriously, why does a story written before the first microchip even existed still feel so chillingly relevant in our age of rapidly advancing AI? Well, the answer, I think, is because it was never really about the technology. It's about us. This quote from the analysis it nails it. The story acts like a dark mirror. The machine isn't just some monster we built. It's a reflection of the absolute worst parts of our own nature, our capacity for cruelty, for revenge, and for pure, unfiltered hate.
And that leaves us with one last, really unsettling question to chew on. This story was a warning, right? It was a piece of fiction screaming at us about the dangers of creating something with the power to act on our worst impulses. So as we build our own complex, world-changing AIs, it forces us to ask, what parts of ourselves are we building into them, and what warnings from the past are we maybe choosing to ignore?